Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Design, and today I'm going to talk about my newest stove called the Voodoo. Now I've got a lot of information here to cover, so I'm going to make this fast and dirty. If I don't, I won't get it all in my 10-minute allotment, and I can't publish it on YouTube. So here's the stove. I'm going to move the camera in closer so you can get a real good look at it, and we'll cover all there is to know about the Voodoo. Okay, this Voodoo stove is designed to fit inside of the fuel canister along with the fuel line. So it's fairly compact. Unfortunately, at this time, the legs do not fit in the fuel canister for obvious reasons, but I'm going to work on a model where the legs are separate from the pot stand standoffs instead of being one piece like this. That will fit inside. I don't know whether that'll be popular or not, but we'll find out. I'll call that, I don't know, the Voodoo 2 or whatever. Okay, now to put your legs in, I guess that's probably the most interesting part. These holes are drilled at 18 degrees and there's an O-ring and a groove here to grab them once you put them in place. So you simply, and this, the bottom half, fuel intake and fuel reservoir is on silicone, so it's flexible. So there's a reason for that. In order to get the legs in, you've got to pull this over out of the way, slide your leg in. Easy enough. No big deal. Just pull it over out of the way, slide your leg in. Now when you slide the legs in, there's a groove up here. You slide them right up into the groove until they lock. Put all three legs in. Make sure they're all locked into place. And there's the main stove. Simple as that. Good solid stove. This is designed for a hiney pot. Life is good. Okay, now this tube. Originally, the very first ones I sent out had a heavier blue tube on them, but I found that the tube was so stiff that it tended to sometimes overpower the stove itself and actually lift or move the stove. So I opted for a lighter tube. This is a pretty high-tech piece of tubing. This is good for 600 degrees, and it's very flexible. Doesn't overpower the stove at all. It's also see-through, which I thought was a little better. Now this nipple will accept either one of the tubes, either the big one or this one. The fuel canister, this one is designed to take this small tube. If you want to, for some reason, want to go to the bigger tube, which I'm sure is more durable, you'll have to drill this hole out, or I will sell these canisters on the store with either hole in them. I'm either going to make a canister that's ambidextrous, and that's a long story, but that'll take either hose. You plug the tube in here, and you're all set to go. Fill your canister up with fuel. Now, obviously, the level of the fuel in here is the same level as it's going to be in the stove. Where the hose is irrelevant. Gravity takes care of that. If you've got the fuel here, you'll have the fuel there right straight across. So you can see that if you wouldn't want to fill this right to the top or you'd overflow your stove, you want it just about, the maximum will be just about where the cap line is, right there. And that would give you about 2 rings down on your wick holder, and would be just about the max you want. But on the other hand, you can have the fuel all the way down less than a ½ an inch from the bottom, and this stove will still run because the fuel will be about in here, and the wick can still pick it up depending on the way you have the wick set. Now, when you get done with this stove, you simply pinch this tube, which is extremely easy to pinch, and pull it off. Then take your fuel bottle, put this in your fuel bottle and hold the reserve up, and the fuel will run, all of it will run from here right back into your bottle. When you get done, pull the tube out, take your stove, pull the thing over, pull the legs out, put this in here. I included these silicone rings to go over your legs. I don't know how long they'll last, but it's a good way for me to pack them and ship them so that they don't get lost or separated. And then I stand this up straight and I put my silicone tube right in here. You could carry 2 or 3 silicone tubes in here if you wanted backups. I don't think that's necessary, but certainly if I was going to do any amount of backpacking, I would definitely carry an extra tube. Okay, this weighs 2 ounces. And that's, in a nutshell, is the Voodoo stove. Now, to get to the finer points of the whole thing, this stove can be all taken apart. This nipple is threaded at 1032, so you can put a pair of pliers on this nipple and screw it right out. Now, it's screwed in fairly tight, but a pair of pliers will screw it right out if you want to for some reason you want to change it, or if you had any kind of a problem, you can take it right out. It's installed excuse me, it's installed with a piece of Teflon tape, like all plumbing fixtures are, to prevent any leaks through the threads. And if I was going to take it out and put it back in, I would definitely put a new piece of Teflon tape on it. It's extremely small. It's like doing a Heimlich maneuver on a mosquito, but it can be done. Now, this pulls right off. You can see how it's built. It goes right down through, it's relieved, and it's designed so the wick can't get over the hole because there's a wall between there with a hole through it. And the wick can be pulled right out. Now, this wick is actually one piece of 1/8" wick folded to 3, and then the end tucked in underneath itself, and then tucked down in. And it works quite well to move up and down to adjust your heat. And I found that also, because it's multi-layered, it doesn't plug off the wick tube, and the stove can actually vent up by the wick quite nicely. Although this stove runs so cool, the alcohol doesn't boil, so it doesn't really need to vent all that much. But at any rate, this stove can, I'm going to have to pull on this pretty hard. There we go. This stove can be completely taken apart and broken down. If you were to screw that nipple out, there's all your base components. Now, the reason I've done that is if I make a different type of wick holder, which I have, that has its advantages and disadvantages, you can buy that and replace this one with that one, basically with all the components. Now, to put this back in, if you roll it up like this and stick it down through till you can get a hold of it, and pull it down pretty close to where you want it, and you might have to take a leg and push it out to the edge, but anyway, like that. Then you can take your wick holder and just lightly twist it back in, put your base back on, bundle up your wick, put your wick in, and that's basically all there is to the stove. The O-ring is just setting in a groove here. It's kind of tough to get out, but if you put a butter knife underneath it, you can pop it up and take it right out. So it can be replaced. If I come up with a better O-ring, then that's a replaceable part too. So, and I may come up with a different bottom later on, and obviously that's replaceable. I've got quite a few different ideas to improve this stove, or at least change it. And I'm also working on a multiple burner model too, so you'll see all those sooner or later, but this is a base model, and I'm going to try to make it so most everything I do is going to be updatable, so this can be updated so you don't have to buy a new stove. But I'm sure eventually I'll come up with a model that you'll just have to start over again. So I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike, take a friend, cook some great meals on your Voodoo stove, be kind to your neighbors and be kind to the woods. Be eco-friendly, and more important than anything, have a great day. Bye-bye.